Things brought to you by the SABC and sponsored by PRASA. And we're talking today to the Premier of the province, Dr. Zwelin And before the break, he spoke over a wide range of issues that his province is addressing and is hoping to achieve. And I guess the one line that really figured for me was creating a province that's going to be a gateway. He said that a couple of times. And because this is a business briefing, perhaps this is something that we'll delve into. But if you'd like to take part in this conversation from home, and if you have any particular issues that you'd like addressed, please tweet at Mbuli Vuyo, also at Peter Ndoro, or you can send an email at morninglive@sabc.co.za. And you can also follow on the platform #TNABizBrief. And yeah, please use this opportunity. It's not often that we get a chance to speak to the Premier and put questions to him live and direct, unedited, as it were. So, Premier, thank you very much for joining us and sharing your thoughts and ideas with us. Gateway to the country and to the continent at large. It's a big ask. It's almost a fundamental paradigm shift. I was at the Durban Business Fair last week, and one of the questions and challenges that comes up is the cost of doing business, for example, and why people should invest in the province. They talk about things like development rates and so on and so forth. What are you doing to make sure that it is not expensive to invest and to do business in KZN?
Well, we have regular discussions with our municipalities because around the issue of local investment, municipalities are key. And therefore, we always want to say that there is access to the administrative structures of the municipalities to be able to debate, to negotiate for competitive rates, particularly in terms of availability of space for trading, as well as the provision of the necessary infrastructure. We are seeing a lot of interest in people, particularly coming into Durban, and in this area of the Durban Trade Port, where we've actually got literally everything is there. On its own, we believe that KwaZulu-Natal, and particularly the coastal side and Durban, offers opportunities for companies that wish to focus on export because it shortens the distance from production to export to the point of export in such a way that that's really where the competitive edge comes in for most of the companies. And so that becomes one of the strong selling points for Durban in general. But the rest of the other issues are matters for negotiations, because there's an issue of the supplies, the water.
Somebody's having an accident behind us. Don't worry.
Yeah, the water, the electrification, and so on. And so, but I think that our biggest selling point is the short distance from manufacturing to export, and we think that similarly in terms of import as well. So anything that comes from outside lands there where you are, and I think that's one of the strong features of this province.
You spoke a bit about agriculture. You spoke about tourism. One of the other things that I picked up is that the maritime environment is one that's highly exploited in terms of, I guess, black business getting in there, and opportunities being taken upon. Is there movement towards opening that up, maybe?
Yes, I think it's a very interesting issue of how we all came from an ancestral culture of terrestrial life. All of us lived there, and our great-grandfathers watched at the sea, and they didn't want to get very close. And even us are like that today. But huge opportunities exist, and at the moment we're starting the whole program of rebuilding of building up the whole maritime industry. The number of todays were sitting, their conferences talking about the skills development in maritime industry. In the past few months, in fact, there's been an accelerated move in that. We're putting up schools to start being trained on maritime. Even at a high school level, and it's going up to university level. It's an area that's really been largely underdeveloped, but largely in our case, when we talk about this being one of the most important provinces, is because if you focus on the maritime, it can actually turn the whole province around. But of course, it's an issue with us, all of us on the coastal side, because we've also been talking to a number of countries in the West. For example, we've got countries in the West, Angola, right up to Benin, who are very interested in partnership with the Port of Durban. And we're talking to the companies in the East, particularly from Shanghai, China, about the whole area of transshipment, wherein stuff comes all the way, gets docked here in Durban, and then it's broken into different boats, and then it moves out to the west coast of Africa and moves on to the south. And we believe that we will be hosting here on behalf of the country the BRICS conference next year, and we're really looking forward to that. And we therefore are saying, we are so well positioned, not only as a country, but also in terms of the assets that we've got, not for KwaZulu-Natal, but for the whole of South Africa and Africa, for taking advantage of this whole connection between the Brazil, India, China, Russia, because then we are on the line. And we believe that business opportunities are huge when you come to that area. So I agree with you, underdeveloped the whole area of maritime industry, but there's a lot of interest already that's being built.
One theme that I've sadly noticed is, and every time I come to Durban, ICC, there is a conference, something happening all the time, a lot of talking, but how do we jump from that to actually doing? Because people always come up with a nice action plan and boards, and we share presentations, but how do we jump from planning, from talking to actually doing?
Part of the function of the Planning Commission is that we're inviting private sector to come forward with their dreams, put them up, and let's see if we can integrate them together and actually turn them into actionable projects for investment. And we believe that having consulted with the business community, there's a lot of interest in that area. We have actually gone beyond that. Part of what this plan is done is to actually look at the environmental sensitivity of the whole province, and there are areas graded into three grades, where there's an area of high environmental sensitivity and the needs for investment is lowest, and then there's an area where you've got least areas of what you call environmental sensitivity, but the need for development and investment is greatest, and there are areas in between. Now we want to use this grading to be able to ensure that there's a quicker turnaround time for environmental impact assessment studies to be done, so that there's quick licenses given for those areas. And then people must know, if you're approaching this area is going to be very difficult, because the sensitivities environmentally are very strong, and so you must know when you focus where you're going to be going. And I believe that's going to make a lot of difference.
All right, so business also has to, apart from the cost of doing business, one of the other realities, unfortunately, is crime.
Yes.
You closed off by talking about one of the councillors that was killed recently,
yes.
And it's an increasing number, isn't it, over a period of months. It was good to see that your crime stats, particularly for murders, had gone down. However, there's still the most number of murders in this province, even though Gauteng has got more crime. Why is that? What is it about murder in this province?
Well, I can't say there's something specific about the province. I can just say that generally South Africans, there's been more violence in the country in general. It's not only just violence in terms of murders. You must look at the extent of road rages. Somebody passes your car and then you're so angry, you start gesticulating at the individual in a very indecent way, and all of this, and how people are so intolerant, how people are so negative, how people are so critical, and all of it. Part of it is a history of trauma that we have come from. A lot of us have I don't know. There's something that we need to do. You must, it's not only here. We must look at the situation we've just emerged from, the tragedy of Marikana. You know, what you get is a situation where suddenly people are easily worked up to a frenzy where something can go wrong anytime. And then when things are, and before that things were normal and you didn't quite think things were as bad as all of that. And this is a problem of the psyche of South Africans that we must face as a country. We must face it because it's not only that, it's only the extent to which we are able to create the kind of society we need. We need to be able to turn everyone to understand the value of love, of compassion, of respect. You know, those are the values that the country actually needs to, you know, nurture much more strongly. And therefore, what you see, the murders and all of these criminals are actually signs of something that is wrong in the community society. Just a few weeks back, where the tragic instances where young kids were actually raping old women. You know, despicable things that we have never heard of in the past. But we're saying, if you compare in the past 10 years or 15 years, the crime has gone down in KwaZulu-Natal. Just that one death is one death too many. And so we believe that it is a challenge that we continue working. We've got our own programs, working with communities of preventing crime and mobilizing communities together, and it's paying.
Oh, so you talked about these councillors that have been killed. Is there a political undertone with these particular assassinations? Because that's what it seems to be.
You see, the difficult thing with them, firstly, as I said, it's not like inter-party largely. But even if you go into the party, you don't go and find that there's fighting that's going on in that particular ward. You don't get that. You just get that a few people came together and they planned to do something bad and they did it. And they just target someone in front of the people, because quite often the councillors have got to be a sign of law and authority in the community. They must stand there and say, don't do this, don't do that, why did you do that, who did that, and so on. And in the process of doing that, some of them are getting targeted. Some of the people think that you know, if they are corrupt, people who are corrupt, and they think the way to get around, you know, your schemes is to actually, you know, get everybody to accept bribe and so on. If then you find you get an obstacle at that level, then they might want to react in the wrong way. But this, for us, is something that we're going to be fighting, particularly as I'm talking on behalf of my party, as it were. We're going to be fighting hard to make sure we stamp this out. We believe that we need to be very strict in the way we actually screen people who join the parties, because that is part of, you know, how we deal with the communities. Must be able to have a say to say that person is not a good person, and therefore must begin to isolate them. But it is also linked to the criminality in the area. Like I think in this case of the last councillor, it's around criminality in that area. It's people who have been involved have got record of having done criminal activities anyway, and therefore they end up with councillors as targets.
All right, so you're saying that the ANC is not divided, if I read you correctly, and I think you said that in your speech. But, you know, we wake up to reports, former police commissioner Bheki Cele rallies anti-Zuma camp. What's going on there? I mean, it does seem that perhaps that there's a us and them, or something's going on.
Yeah, but let's talk about it, right? Firstly, we're going to be going to elections.
Right.
So what if anybody has got a view for and against anyone? What does it matter? And it can't be a big crime to have done that. Although, having discussed with him, he has distanced himself from those kinds of things. But the point at the end of the day is, you do expect people to say something for or against someone, because we're going towards evaluating the performance of our leaders. And it's accepted in the ANC that some of the people, yes, is your leader, but you don't need to vote for the individual, and you'll do your best to try and dissuade others from voting. And then at the end, once they've voted for the individual, that individual must be accepted as a leader. But if you have got your view to say, you know what, we distinguish, by the way, within the ANC between private personal views and political decisions.
Okay.
Now, a resolution which binds everybody does not mean I can't go out and gossip against the thing that we have all agreed. It doesn't mean that. You see? Now,
All right.
Now, but I've got freedom to gossip, you see.
Yeah.
I've got freedom to differ. I've got freedom to say, well, this decision I don't like. But you're going to implement it, but you don't like it.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break, but just before that, if you could answer very briefly. I mean, this week we've heard Treasurer General Matthews Poza saying that the leadership of the ANC, nobody's guaranteed, and that everybody should be measured on merit. We saw Sports Minister Fikile Mbalula saying that there seems to be a taboo around talking about the leadership question. Can you just comment on those? Are you in agreement with those statements?
No, there are two things.
Yeah.
The ANC elects people for a 5-year term. This is what we've been insisting on. You may not like President Jacob Zuma, but we say we will support him because this is his term of office. When it ends, let the conference decide. Whoever gets elected, we will support until the end of that term. Unless there's an issue that's tabled properly in an ANC forum that says there's an issue that we must discuss. But we can't, because somebody has written an editorial opinion criticizing President Zuma, then we'll say, well, now suddenly he's got no support. He will have support up till the end of the term. Then, when it comes to the new term, we will all go out and say, what did you think? And then people are going to evaluate. And once they've taken a decision, then you'll see it in the branches, you'll see with the nominations, you'll see at the conference. And as far as I'm concerned, people are free and are open to do that. It is important for people to be free, because if they succeed, they need to know that they will actually have elected on behalf of the whole organization. But if they don't succeed, they will still be bound by the decisions of the whole organization. Now, what has been said about taboo, I don't quite understand it. What the ANC has said is that don't go around discussing issues of who becomes a leader. As soon as you've finished the one conference, you want to talk about the leadership in the next conference. Wait until it is open for discussion within the ANC structures. It's not taboo. The right time is when the ANC, today the ANC is sitting. It's going to be opening up to say, go out and nominate. That is the time to discuss. Now, we want to discuss issues of leadership every time before it's supposed to be discussed. They're disruptive.
Okay,
That's it.
All right. We'll leave it there for the